Some questions. It's going to be like. It's open.
Caroline, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Three o'clock, time to start. We'll discuss the exam a little bit today, but let's finish up the example we did not finish last class. Subsheets from master sheet. Senior management needs this sheet. Now I'm in sheet master. Once again, the book is subsheets from master sheets, class 13. There is a column giving the district, Adriatic district in the country of Slovenia, and some other related fields. The next record, GCE, Greater Central Europe, I think, Nordic and Baltic, GCE, etc. Senior management needs this sheet, and district managers need the sheet for their corresponding district. I want to create, I've already created, but it's too complex. I want to talk about a simpler way to do it. The manager for Adriatic needs sheet Adriatic. The management for GCE needs sheet GCE, etc. Traditional way I explain, can you think of a simpler way? First of all, let's grab the image that I want to create. The first Adriatic record, I want to label Adriatic 1. The first GCE record, I want to label GCE 1. Nordic and Baltic 1. GCE, the next GCE record, I want to label GCE 2. Once I have those unique labels, I can match them in the individual country sheets. It's hard to motivate to explain it because there's such a simpler way to do this. I do want to convince you that this is pretty complex. Create unique label. I'm in sheet master 1, too complex. I've already inserted a column, a new column A. And in B2, I have the formula that looks kind of funny until you copy it down. Excuse me, in A2, I have equals B2, ampersand COUNTIF B2 absolute colon B2, comma B2. When you copy that down to A3, it says B3 ampersand COUNTIF B2 to B3. B3. That's pretty important. You should know how to create unique labels. The existing label plus a count of any previous labels, including the current label. So Adriatic, there's one Adriatic, including the current one. There's one GCE record, including the current one. There's one Nordic and Baltic, so Nordic and Baltic 1. When I get to this GCE 2, there are 2 GCE records, including the current one. Concatenation. Next, I could go to sheet Adriatic 1, and I could use the match worksheet function to find A1 ampersand B2, that is Adriatic 1. I want to find Adriatic 2, Adriatic 3, Adriatic 4, Adriatic 5. I will find them in rows, well, records 1, 6, 16, and 20, which is equivalent to the rows 2, 7, 17, and 21. The row and the record number are off by 1. Row 2 contains ID 1. Let's emphasize that Adriatic records are in rows 2, 7, 17, and 21. Go back to sheet master and look at the yellow filled rows. 2, 7, 17, and 21. Once you know what rows they're in, you can offset, but that's too complex. I'm going to suggest we hide temporarily all the orange tabs. Click on sheet master 1, too complex, hold the shift down, click on the orange sheets at the right click, and hide. So all I have is sheet master. I want to create separate sheets. Let me create one more sheet. Add in a sheet. The first sheet I want to create is Adriatic. So let me rename the sheet Adriatic. And let me place in A1 Adriatic. Insert a sheet. In A1, type Adriatic, name the sheet Adriatic. Let me copy the field titles. I'll have to do this only once. Go back to sheet master. A1 through, I believe it's K1, yes. You can barely see the moving marquee. A1 through K1 I've copied to the clipboard. Let me paste it to D1 and make my columns a little bit wider. What do you suggest I do that would immediately pull all Adriatic records out of sheet master and copy them here? The filter worksheet function. That's going to be important for the exam, so I'll demonstrate it here and then we'll do some, at least one in-class problem in addition. Equals filter. So I'm in sheet Adriatic D2 equals filter open parentheses. I'll now click on sheet master and select columns A through K. Look at the name box. I hope you can read it. I think you can in the back row. Equals filter, master exclamation, A:(K), comma, and I want to pull out the rows, minus, minus, open. Master A:(A) equals, go back to sheet Adriatic and click on A1 and close the parentheses and enter. I've done 4 steps. I've inserted a sheet called Adriatic. I've typed Adriatic in A1. I've pasted the titles, copied and pasted the titles to D1. This single function, let me highlight it in yellow. equals filter. That other sheet master A:(K), comma, minus, minus, that other sheet master column A:(A) equals Adriatic A1. I don't need this Adriatic. That's the name of the sheet. Filter master A:(K). I'd like to take out equals Adriatic exclamation point. And I get the same answer. This is personal preference. Filter sheet master A:(K). Master exclamation is required because that's another sheet. We're not in that sheet. Equals filter master exclamation A:(K), comma, minus, minus, sheet master A:(A) equals A1. What sheet in A1? I don't say what sheet. I don't need to because I'm in my current sheet. It pulls out all the Adriatics. Now look how trivial it is to produce the next one for GCE. Let me right click, move or copy, right click the sheet name, create a copy. We've done this before. Shell item stockage 1 and 2. Move it to the end. And I have Adriatic 2. I need to do only 2 steps to complete sheet GCE. Let me name the new sheet GCE and let me type in A1 GCE, and that sheet is finished. We could do it again if we wanted. What's the name of another division? Nordic and Baltic. Control C. Let me right click sheet GCE, move or copy, create a copy, put it at the end. Let's see if my clipboard is still active. It is not. Nordic, ampersand, Baltic. And let me rename the sheet. Whatever is in A1 drives the filter. I'm going to give you a moment and then I'm going to go over the big picture again. Let's look at sheet master. I have a single master sheet containing records for every employee. What district, what country, reporting line, business units. The first one is for Frank, spelled in the European way, F-R-A-N-C. The next one, Peter. I took away their last names, P-E-T-R. Gender, birth dates, nationality, the degrees they have. Sheet Adriatic pulls all the Adriatics out. The beauty of it is that as time passes, many of the employees complete additional degrees. They may have a bachelor's degree and they complete a master's or an MBA. Let me show you one other thing. There are some unknowns in here. This is all in my way. Let's look at my name spelled badly. Let me delete this stuff. As far as Excel is concerned, there is a country called, or a division, a district actually, called unknown. Let me right-click any of the sheets, Adriatic, GCE, or Nordic and Baltic, and do what I did before. Move or copy, create a copy. Name the sheet unknown. Change A1 to unknown. And that sheet is done. Once again, make a copy of an existing sheet. Rename the sheet appropriate to the district and put A1 in the district, and that sheet is done. Let's look in particular at me with my name spelled so ridiculously. I have a general equivalent degree, and I'm going to give myself a Brentwood High School degree. Let me come to Sheet Master. So first thing, I'm going to change my degree, BHS. In Sheet Master, J19, BHS. Now let's go to Sheet Unknown. Put it at the left. And look at the large font again. Because I obtained a new degree, the sheet containing details of me updates. Maybe I was unknown because I was being transferred from one district to another. Let's put me in the GCE district. Let's go back to master. Change unknown in A19 to GCE. I am going to disappear from sheet unknown and appear in sheet GCE. Let's see that. In sheet unknown, I'm gone. The large font now refers to another employee. It's misleading. Mike 0 means no education is listed. GCE. Here I am. The takeaway is the filter worksheet function is very powerful. You can expect a question requiring the filter on the exam. Since we didn't have any homework since we didn't have any homework question on the filter worksheet function, we're going to work an in-class problem or two in a few minutes. Let's work a couple of other things first. When you get a minute, please go to book, What is Wrong? Quinn McCarthy, you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Are you ready to go on or you need another minute?
I'm ready to keep going.
Okay, the book is What is Wrong? The leftmost sheet, sheet 1. Cell A3 contains a worksheet function equals the sum of A1 to A2. A1 is 1, A2 is 2. The summation is not 1. What's wrong? This is insidious. I won't test you on this concept since it's so late in the course. Look at the content. Does A1 really contain a 1? Yes, it does. Does A2 really contain a 2? Yes, it does. Look at the formula bar. Does A3 contain a 1? No, it contains a formula. The sum of A1 to A2. You see the error? Let's not waste class time. A2 is formatted as text. I really don't approve of that capability, but Microsoft doesn't agree. Activate A2, home tab, and it says text. Therefore, it's ignored. Let's change that to general. The home tab of the ribbon, A2 is active. Drop down the arrow. Let's see, I'm in the home tab. What group am I in? The number group. Drop down the arrow and change it to number or general. Let's give it number with 2 decimals. And the error is still there. Activate A1, read the format, general. Activate A2, read the format, number. That's okay. Number means 2 decimals. General means numeric if applicable. A3 is also formatted correctly. But listen to this. A2 is not really formatted as number. It was formatted as text. I changed the format. Before the change takes place, you have to activate the cell and press enter. Let me not do it yet to make sure you understand what's wrong. A2, number. No, it's not. In spite of the fact that it says number, it is not number. You have to go to A2, activate the cell, press enter, and now the answer 3 is correct because the change format for A2 has taken effect. If you format something as text, you can reformat it as number, but you've got to activate the cell, put the cursor, enter edit mode like this, and press enter before the change takes effect. That's not reasonable, in my strong opinion. Let's look at a related concept about how somebody could sabotage you. Suppose you and someone else are interviewing for a position, or you're both employed at the same company, and you're both under consideration for a promotion. You're getting ready to make a presentation. Here's what someone could do to sabotage your laptop. I'm teaching you this only for defensive capability, not so that you can do this to someone else. Let's look at sheet demo sabotage on this sheet. The correct sum is 50 grand. I'm in no, I'm not. I'm in C23. It contains, C23 contains 50,000. That is correct. The formula in E1 to I19 is wrong. Let's trace the precedence. The sum of those numbers, well, let's do a control grave accent and look at the contents. Let me zoom down a little bit. Look what I entered in H9 and H10 equals quote, $ quote, ampersand 796. That is certainly text and is ignored in the sum. Notice that's almost $1,500. 796 plus 702 is 1,498. I wrote my conclusions. Look at H9 colon H10. So by formatting a number as text and then making the format stick by activating the cell, editing it, make the cursor blink in the formula bar and then press enter, you can really mess things up. Imagine how embarrassed you would be if you gave a presentation. Let me do a control grave accent. Okay, I'll have to make my columns wider. And you said the sum is 50,000. I want to make H narrower so you can't readily see the offending right here. Let me turn them yellow for your attention. In a large example, you can't really see that there's a slight difference in appearance. I could maybe even make the difference disappear. Equals quote, $ blank space, close quote. Now, except for the yellow, there's no difference in those display. Be aware, password protect your laptop. Be aware that you can be sabotaged. End of that, not testable. There will be no questions that have this incorrect formatting. It is now 3:25, 3:25. Close that. Advanced sum product requires minus minus. Not this one, that's advanced sum product 3. Yes, advanced sum product requires minus minus. The ordinary sum product. Sheet 1, ordinary sum product. Everybody in class with me, raise your hand if you need a minute. Alejandro Torres, you with me?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I am. Sorry for
Okay.
not. Yes, I am.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I don't call many of my students Cyan, but I did say to you, yes, Cyan.
Thank you.
In case you don't know, Siam is a respectful and ancient respectful form of address. All right, it's also the Society of Industrial and Applied Mathematics. Let's go on. B3 contains the sum product of 3 ranges. When I prepared for class, I inserted some blank spaces in there. It's perfectly good. The ordinary syntax is perfectly good. If we remove one range from a correct formula, it's still correct. If we remove a second one, it's still correct. That's unusual, the sum product of a single array, but it is acceptable. It means the summation of those. The point is, if you remove 1 or 2 arrays, it still works. Keep that in mind. Let me hit undo. Let's go to sheet summary. This is intended to be confusing. It is confusing. I'm going to reach the conclusion at the end of this recommendation. Always use the minus minus and the star in the sum product. I find this thoroughly confusing, but here are the thoughts. A2, the required syntax, minus, minus, and star for the sum product depends. The required syntax depends on whether the arrays are the same size or different sizes. If there's only a single array, the minus, minus is needed. See column D. The data I'm summing has labels in A, starting in row 10, and numbers in column B. D12 is wrong. The sum product of A10 to A104 equals D10 should give me 4, a count of them, right? These are zeros and ones. A10 to A104 is a bunch of months. A10 to A104 equals D10 is a bunch of trues and falses. Trues and falses. The problem is I need to get Excel started converting the true to 1 and the false to 0. Sum product open criteria fails in a terrible way. I wish you would come back and say error. Hey, Mr. Forgetful, you forgot the minus minus open. But it doesn't say that. It just gives you the wrong number. D16 with additional parentheses is also wrong. The correct form requires the minus minus You can't really use the star if you have only one array with the traditional syntax. The star goes between arrays, right? The sum product of this array star that array. All right. Minus minus is by far the most common way to convert true to 1, but you could also multiply it by 1 or divide it by 1 or add 0 or subtract 0. All 5 of those operations, *1, /1, +0, -0, or minus, apply only to numbers and they don't change the number. Any one is fine. I illustrate *1 works, you get 4 as the answer. First, I was counting the number of different sales for July. The answer is 4. Now let's add the sales for July. I get the wrong answer. In D32, the sum product, the first set of criteria is A10 to A104 equals D30, that's July, comma, B10 to B104. The answer is wrong. In D34, I don't have the minus, but I do have the star. It's perfectly fine, but I'm uncomfortable with the fact that a correct worksheet function becomes incorrect if you merely remove one of the arguments. That's the point I discussed on the previous sheet. I just removed one of the arguments and it became incorrect. For that reason, I recommend always using the minus parentheses. I'm talking about this. Hold. I'm talking about this first argument, minus, even if it's not needed, and I recommend using the star. Right, you can always use the minus and the star. Right. You can even use minus in front of the data if you don't feel like thinking about it. You're in a hurry on an exam or a hurry for anything. Put a minus in front of everything. Yes.
Since it's sum product, you have to have the, after D10 and that parentheses, you just do a comma.
I want you to repeat the question. We're in D42, right?
Yeah,
You're asking,
so since it's a sum product, can you just get rid of that symbol, put a comma there instead? And then
I think you can. You need one or the other. You need to get Excel started towards converting everything that could be a number into a number. I've just illustrated that's true if the arrays are the same size. If there's only one logical test, you need minus, or one of the 4 equivalents that are very unusual. If there is one logical test multiplied by another range, you don't need the minus if you have a star, but if you later delete the second one, this becomes wrong. Concluding, if the arrays are the same size, minus, comma, with no star is okay. That's what we just said. If here's a relevant point to your question. If the arrays are different sizes, and I misspelled comma, that says coma, right? That's a bad word, especially to people my age. If the arrays are different sizes, minus and comma, with no star is not okay. Let's see some examples of that. Let's scroll to put column J, well, cell J6 near the top left of your screen. In the example, in one of these examples, the arrays are of different sizes. First of all, L23, the sum product of minus, parentheses, L12 to L21 equals 103, comma, it is okay. I added some font color for emphasis, the green, the blue, when I prepared for class. This is not testable. You just need to know how to do it. If you want to memorize this and use only what's needed for the exceptional situations, that's fine with me, as long as it works. I again emphasize that minus, minus, and star will always work. All right. L23, the sum product of minus, minus, column L equals customer 103. That's a customer label, comma M works. But the same syntax, O23, sum product open, minus, minus, L21, L12 to 21 equals 103, comma, fails in a different situation, a different syntax. Arrays are different size, minus, minus, and comma with no star is not okay. Arrays are same size, minus, minus, and comma with no star is okay. I've used small examples, so the answer is obviously wrong. For example, I'm scrolling back to the left. We do have a July in A13 and in A16. We have a total of 4. It is obvious that D12 is wrong. However, if the arrow were part of a larger formula, it would be by no means obvious. Look at L40 and expand the formula bar. The sum product, blah, 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 the first row is okay. Plus the sum product, blah, 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 the second row is okay. Plus the sum product, blah, 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 that third row is not okay. It's going to give me 0 when the answer is not 0. Plus the sum product, blah, 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 the fourth row is correct. It shows an answer of 12. It's by no means obvious that that 12 is wrong and it's missing something. Take 2 minutes. And if you have any advice on how I teach this the next time, I'm torn between saying you must use minus, minus, and star because it's really confusing if you don't. And I hope this example has illustrated the confusing nature. But I don't want to be caught somebody saying, look, I just used the minus, minus without the comma and it was okay. So my trade-off is to say, of course, I can't get to all of this early in the course. You're still struggling with working the problems. I do not think it's appropriate to burden you with the exceptional cases until the end of the course. If you have any thoughts, happy to philosophize with you. We'll finish that. Advanced sum product 3. Not testable. I'll tell you when to wake up. Advanced sum product 3, sheet 1A, advanced sum product with text. Let's look at the big picture. For the states of Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, I have for the 2-year period, 2021, that's the current year, and last year, revenue, profit, market share, employees, and overhead for company 1. Company 2, the same. Company 3. Let's look at J17. I think you agree that that's error-prone and tedious. J17 contains the sum of C12 to H12, comma, C to H17, it's summing up the revenues. C to H12, comma, C to H17, comma, C to H22, C to H27. That is tedious, especially in a larger example. J19 says the sum of only, well, C12 and 17 and 22 and 27 and 32 and 37, and then E 12, 17, blah, blah, blah. I think you'll agree that's error prone. So let's use the sum product with criteria. It gives me an error. I put this brace when I prepared for class, this one. Your version doesn't have it. I want to show you that the 60 and the 60 are correct. The sum product of minus minus C to H11, that's row 11, equals year of now, that's 2021, star column B equals revenue, star the rectangle, C12 to H21. The sum product fails because there's text in the range where numbers are supposed to be. That's normally an advantage. But in this case, it's a different disadvantage. The way we correct it is to make one single change. The sum product of, check the years, C through H11 is year of now, year of now. B 12 to 41 is revenue. Star is number C12 to H41, comma C12 to H41. That's not testable because it's a new concept, so new today. That won't be on the test. But if you want the sum product with criteria to ignore text in the range that's supposed to be numeric, you use the short form of the if. Is number C12 to H41, comma, C12 to H41. What's the value of false? I don't say what the value of false if it's not a number. I'm implying ignore it. Is number in the rectangular range? Give me the very same value. And if it's not a number, ignore it. There's a bunch of NAs in the rectangular range. That works just fine. At this point, you're so close to my exam and other exams, you might want to just make a mental note that the sum product with criteria fails if there is text where the numbers are supposed to be, but there is a way to overcome it. Maybe that's all your mind can grasp, given your other pressing duties. I illustrate the same concept in an example you've seen before. The 50 states with 5 years. I have the same example. I think I didn't update the years in this example. Row 9 has old years. If you type ABC or any other text, anywhere in the rectangle, you get errors in column Q, Q merged with R. The sum product of the labels equals J2 star the rectangle, B10 to IQ55. I do it correctly with the is number B10, B10. Illustrating the same concept. The next sheet, you certainly have to know this sheet. That's verbatim from a previous class when I first introduced the sum product with criteria. I showed you one typical form is a rectangular array of numbers with labels on the left and labels on the top. There is another form as well, which is brand new, so it's not testable. Let me just tell you without teaching you carefully. I'm proud of this example. I published this in that same paper I talked about in past classes. The context is that sales representatives compete with each other. And in every month, the highest selling rep gets first place, the second highest rep gets second place, third, fourth, and fifth. And these are the points for placing. First place in any month is 15 points. Second place in any month is 10 points. At the end of the year, the rep with the most points gets a free trip to Hawaii with his or her spouse. So this is pretty important. It's intended to motivate. That's quite common. Let's take a look. Joe, we only have 3 months of data in yet. Joe got first place in February, Joe got first place in January, 5th place in February and March. The point count is first place is worth 15 points, 5th is worth 1. He got 15, he got 17 points. Look what the user tried to do. There's scarcely room to see the sheet. You got to make the formula bar so thick. so tall. Q3, if B3 is first, 0.3 points. If that's not true, if B3 is second, 0.4 points. If that's not true, if B3 is third, 0.5 points. That is ridiculous. The sum product with criteria also works in this case. The sum product of the yellow row, let's activate L3. The sum product of B to K3, that's the yellow row, equals the yellow column, N3 to N7. Notice that B to K3 is 10. So 10 cells. This yellow row with 10 cells star the yellow column with 5 cells. That does work. I think you're more interested in doing the practice problems for the exam, so I'm going to let it go and say there are other cases where the sum product with criteria works great. If you're interested in an independent studies course, we could do that. That's all I wanted to cover out of this book. There's a sheet in yellow that talks about the expansion of the arrays. Certainly not testable. Nothing in this workbook is testable except for the sheet that was a straight repeat. Sheet 2A, advanced sum product. If we covered it in an earlier class, of course it's fair game for the test. Take a minute and let's open up the workbook that I sent you an hour ago, as well as dynamic array 2 filter. Let's review the filter worksheet function by going over the in-class problem solutions again. The book is Dynamic Array 2 Filter. We covered this in class 9 or 10. We've got records with the sales rep's name, Sue Carla Al, Sue Al, Sue, the customer they sold to, the dollar sales in thousands, and the product code that they sold. In class 1, starting in F15, the orange or gold, show all of Carl's sales to customer 1298 of at least $500. Don't hard code. Wait a moment. I urge you to work that problem. Equals filter of, select the range bottom to top with the control or command arrows, comma, column A equals Carl, and I'll press enter. Make sure my syntax is okay so far, and I've got all of Carl's records, only Carl's records. So now I'll extend it. You will notice that I did not use minus minus. That's okay if you have only one argument. However, if I add a second argument, namely the customer ID has to be 1298, it's not going to be okay. Comma, what the heck? Customer ID, column B, equals 1298. And now it's going to give me an error. I don't mean comma. It gives me the wrong answer. I asked for Carl's sales of $12.98, but it gives me Carl's sales of $23.22. It clearly is incorrect. It's not the syntax. I meant to put a star right here. Now we're going to get a syntax error because we don't have the parentheses. We get a value error. I need minus minus, open parentheses, close parentheses, star, minus minus, open parentheses, close one more. And that's better. I get 3 records. Carl's sales of $12.98. I'm in a cell with a ghosted formula. You can't edit G15. You have to go to the top left. F15 you can. Filter A9 to D268, comma, minus minus, A9 to A268 equals F9, star, minus minus, B9 to B268 equals G9, close parentheses, close parentheses. I'm almost done. I'm not done. I asked for all of Carl's sales, I got that. The customer $12.98, I got that. Of at least $500, $500,000. And I have an invalid record in here. Look at this middle record, only 470. I don't want to see that one. So I go star. Star, minus minus, open. Column C, control down arrow, control shift up arrow, fine tune. Greater than or equal to. Click on H9, and I'm missing the close parentheses. That is the correct answer. Carl sold 2 records. There are 2 records with Carl as the rep, customer ID of $12.98, and sales at least 500. Filter A to D with conditions A equals F, that's Carl. Pay strict attention. Filter A to D, comma, A to A, column A equals F9, that's Carl. Star, column B equals G9, that's $12.98. Star, column C greater than or equal to H9, that's 500. That's a good review of the filter worksheet function. Let's go on and work the second worksheet for work the second problem. Starting in K15, show all of Sue's sales of product 2000 and also all sales of at least 1,000. Let's say equals filter of comma. Why don't I hard code for teaching? Equals quote SUE quote. So far, so good in my divide and conquer strategy. I've ignored product 2,000 and sales of 1,000. I just said, show me all of Sue's sales. Once again, there is no error. If you forget the minus minus parentheses, there is no error if you have only one. But as soon as you add another one, there will be an error. So you might as well add it. Comma. Product code is 2,000. Control down arrow, control shift up arrow equals 2,000. 2,000. And now there will be a syntax error. No, there won't. I made the same, that was an actual mistake. Column D is supposed to be 2,000. Product code is supposed to be 2,000. You need the star in there. Remember the logic, binary logic. If this test is true, you got a 1. And if the other test is true, you got a 1. 1 times 1, okay, I want that record. It is Sue and product 2000. But I didn't, I used a comma. Now it's going to give me a syntax error because I need at the very least the parentheses. And okay so far, 3 records. I'm asking for show all of Sue's sales of product 2000. She's a new sales rep, so I want to see how she's doing. I might have 5 or 6 new sales reps out of my 200 sales reps, and I want to see all of Sue's records and all of Joe's records, another new guy, all of Bob and all of Ann. I also want to see plus all sales of at least $1,000. And that would be C. Greater than or equal to, and I'm hard coding. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Tara, triple Sue, Al, Sue is correct. I show all of Sue's records. One of which, let's see, I show all of Sue's records. I also show the sales greater than 1,000. Let me use large font to emphasize that. I show Tara's sale because 1325 is big, and I show Al's sale because 1325, no, because 9999. I did not mean to turn that red. But notice there's an overlap. Sue also sold more than 1,000. We have to be very careful not to count that record twice when I say, later I'm going to say I want to add up all of Sue's sales. I also want to see the sum of all large sales. And I certainly do not want to count Sue's large sale twice. I don't want to count the $1,100. We'll see that in a moment. We're not there yet. We have 2 examples of the filter worksheet function. I recommend you study this before the next class, before the exam is what I meant to say. Let's go on and look at the one I just sent you, dynamic array 2, demo. Exam practice filter with another worksheet function. I'll give you 2 minutes to catch up. That'll be 4 o'clock a little later. Next book. Exam practice filter with another worksheet function. You got this for me today, right? Anybody have an issue? Lane, you okay? No, you're not Lane, are you? I'm misremembering your name. Do you have this workbook open? Okay, good. I'm bad enough with names when people are not wearing masks. A11 to D149 again shows sales reps. Similar example, Sue's a new rep. We want to sum all her sales. I don't want to see them. I want to add them up. We also want unusually large. The filter worksheet function has superior filtering ability to that of the sum if and the average if and the sum ifs and the count if. We've seen variations of that. For example, the filter worksheet function in L12 shows all of Sue's sales and also all sales of at least 1,000. It's a simpler example of one we just worked on. In the previous example, I insisted that the product or the customer be something. Now I just want to see all of Sue's sales and also all big sales in blue. The answer is in L12. A12 to D149, comma, A equals Sue, C greater than or equal to 1,000. Color coding in the blue font, Sue's sales. The blue fill, Sue's records. Green font, all sales of at least $1,000. Green fill, Frank is shown because he made a $2,000 sale. But also Sue made something more than $1,000. Let's look at the complications. The answer is $6,000. That is correct. If you use the sum if, it's very difficult to do that, even in this simple problem. You have to say the sum if, I did it somewhere. I use the sum ifs. Show me all of Sue's records. And then show me all the big records independent of rep. And then show me all of Sue's big records. And subtract. Show me all of Sue's plus all the big records minus all of Sue's big records, sales. You can do it with the sum ifs and the sum ifs, but we have only a simple condition here. What if I wanted to see all the sales by any of my new reps? That is all of Sue's and Joe's and Larry's and Bob's and Beth's and Allie and Al, but not this case. You have superior filtering capability with the filter. What I'm going to suggest we do is equal sum. The sum of what? All the records resulting from the filter. Notice I filter C:C. Only the price, the column of prices. Filter C12 : C149, comma. The include argument is include all of Sue's records. A 12 to 149 equals Sue, that's J12, I12 is Sue. Plus minus column C is greater than or equal to $1,000. You can use the filter worksheet function in conjunction with the sum, or for that matter, in conjunction with the average, or the sum if, or the VLOOKUP, or the HLOOKUP. You can use the filter to identify the records you want to sum, or the records you want to do a VLOOKUP in. Because the filter has superior filtering capability, the filter worksheet function has superior filtering capability. It's often convenient to do so. This is brand new stuff. I didn't know what I'm teaching you 2 weeks ago. I urge you to study this problem particularly for the exam. So you need to know the filter worksheet function. In a sense, that wouldn't be fair because we didn't do any homework of the filter. We did cover it in class. But because we didn't do any homework, I'm reviewing it today, urging you to study it. And suggesting that there might be a test question involving this concept, the filter with another worksheet function. Let's look at the X lookup worksheet function. The name of the workbook is New X Lookup. I think I put that on the list of ones to cover. Not testable because it's a brand new concept today. The only new concept today that is on the test is this concept of using the filter worksheet function in conjunction with another worksheet function. XLOOKUP is new, just like sort, sort by, unique, filter. XLOOKUP is similar to VLOOKUP, similar to HLOOKUP, but has advantages and more capabilities. Like the VLOOKUP and like the HLOOKUP, the XLOOKUP has both an exact form and an interval form. I think Microsoft regrets that the HLOOKUP defaults to interval form and the VLOOKUP defaults to interval form, because I think more commonly we use the exact form. But historically, Microsoft didn't think about an exact form. It just, historically, Microsoft gave an interval form. That was the only version. Then I think due to Lotus competition and Quattro Pro, remember those early spreadsheets that I don't think exist anymore? Microsoft was forced to extend to the case of an exact match. That doesn't matter. The VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP certainly are testable. They have an exact form and an interval form. The same is true with the XLOOKUP, but the XLOOKUP defaults to exact match. Sheet example 1, there are two major advantages of HLOOKUP and VLOOKUP. XLOOKUP can return values from any column. You remember with the HLOOKUP, the compare values have to be in the top row. With the VLOOKUP, the return values have to be in the leftmost column. XLOOKUP can return values from any column. It does not need to compare values. It does not need the compare values to be at the far left like the VLOOKUP does. XLOOKUP can return user specified text if there is an error. You can't do that with a VLOOKUP unless you use the if error function with it. Let's take a look. I have a list of employees starting with the field titles in row 48. Tanya Keeley, email, department, location, ID, salary, longevity, years with the company. Francis Rushton, Beryl Enrique, I think that's how you pronounce it, or is it Enrique? Not sure. I've been called LeBlanc a lot of times. Maybe she pronounces it both ways. I've underlined that one and highlighted it in green for your attention. Up in A17, I have an employee ID. That is Beryl's. I'm going to do a lookup, VLOOKUP. First of all, the traditional VLOOKUP of A17. That's the compare value. No, that's what I'm looking up. That's the ID number. E to G. E29 to G78. I've got to start with E because I need the compare values to be at the leftmost column. Comma 2, comma 0 for an exact match. Her salary is 82,548. Convince yourself of that. Certainly the VLOOKUP is testable. The XLOOKUP is not. Enter an ID here, try an invalid entry. We get an ugly error in the salary, A19. I just undid that. The XLOOKUP can do the same thing. In C19 equals XLOOKUP of A17, same range, but here it's more intuitive. You give just the column you're looking up the employee ID, E29 to E78. That's the yellow cells, comma, return from F29 to F78. Look carefully what I've highlighted in the formula bar. With the VLOOKUP, we would give it a rectangle with the compare values in the left. Now I give it only the column, only the compare column, compare values column, comma, and with the VLOOKUP, I would have said comma 2 or comma 3 or comma 4, specifying the column you want to return the answer from. Here, somewhat like the sort by, you specify the full range that you want to take it from. And there's a final argument. This is a trivial point. If you can't find it, display not found. So once again, I'll invalidate A17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The VLOOKUP gives an ugly error. The HLOOKUP gives a cleaner error. So far, that's minor. A more profound advantage of the XLOOKUP is that the compare value column does not have to be at the far left. It can be anywhere. Look at the green font. I made that change when I prepared for class, so you won't have that. Note the look array is not the leftmost column. Equals XLOOKUP of A17. That's Beryl's ID number. In F19 equals XLOOKUP of A17, employee ID number. In the range E, we look it up in column E and we return the result from column B. That's a significant advantage. The compare values are not at the left. The compare values are column E and the return column is from column B. Make a mental note that you can do that. not testable. Example 2. This is a significant increase in capability, but it's also dangerous. So sheet example 2, A11 is what I'm going to look up, ID 5318. I'm going to look it up in the blue, turquoise on my screen, bluish gray, right in here. We will find that ID in the third cell in the column. Therefore, we return the third entry in the other range. XLOOKUP A11 in the range C, 28 to 37, comma, well, I should emphasize the 28, in the range C28 to 37, and return the corresponding value in A16 to A25. Let me say the same thing with colors. Look up a number in this blue range, and if you find it in the third place, then give me the third name over here. That's quite an extension. You certainly cannot do that with the HLOOKUP, but you might forget. You might sort this, and then your answers are all wrong. So you think about whether you want to use this capability. I just don't want to let you out of the course without an awareness that there's a brand new function, the XLOOKUP, which has a lot of capability, perhaps too much. Maybe like letting an amateur mechanic fix his own brakes. It's probably better if you know nothing at all about repairing brakes, or if you're truly expert. But if you're just a casual mechanic, maybe you shouldn't work on your own brakes. Personal opinion. Example of an intentional error. We have in sheet example 3, once again, name, email, department, city, annual salary, years employed, and employee ID. We can return multiple values. XLOOKUP of G18. G18 is the employee ID 9802. I've highlighted the answer. Ellen Foraker. Ellen Foraker, 9802. And I'm asking the XLOOKUP to return multiple columns. Look carefully. XLOOKUP of G18, that's 9802. In the column H24 to H73, looking it up in a single column, yes, but the return values are B through G. I want to return column B, C, D, E, F, and G, a total of 6. So we look in the yellow, oops, I'm in edit mode. We look in the yellow range for 9802. We find it over here in row 39, and I want to return column B, C, D, E, F, G, not H, I already have H. Name is, all of this comes from the XLOOKUP. The rest of it is ghosted and cannot be deleted. You can try to delete it and it'll beep at you. It'll make a sound making you think you've deleted it, but you did not. XLOOKUP of G18 in the single column, as you must, H24 to H73. Return the rectangle, the multiple columns B, C, D, E, F, and G. Return the name, the email in that order. Department, the city, the annual salary. However, I have an intentional label error. The first field is the name, that's fine. The second field is the email, that's fine. The third field is the department. It will return the department, but the mistake is in C17 and D17. I've put my labels inconsistently with what Excel is going to return. The city is not operations. The city is Nashville. The department is not Nashville. The department is operations. city and department are reversed in the labels right here. Everything else is fine. So you can pull out more than one column. I like that. You cannot pull out multiple rows which match the VLOOKUP, but you can simultaneously pull out the name, the email, etc. If you did not want to see the years with the companies, I could change this to B through F. Look at the change that I just made. VLOOKUP of, excuse me, XLOOKUP of G18 in the column H, return B through F. Enter. And now it does not return the years with the company. If I ask for B through E, B, C, D, E, not including F, then it wouldn't bring the salary. You can specify multiple fields to be returned. If there's no room to display them all, you'll get a fill error. I just entered in D18, A, B, C, E, D. Intentional typo, so I know I made it. Delete that, and now there is room. The formula was fine. It just gave me a spill error because there was no room to show it. Finally, an example illustrating you can do a VLOOKUP interval form, and the pair values can be, do not have to be sorted ascending, they can be sorted descending. For example, 0 to 60, this is the traditional VLOOKUP. 0 to 60 points in a course is an F. 60 to 70 is a D. 70 to 80, C. 80 to 90 is a B, 90 or above is an A. Ann and Tom and Bob and Sue got these grades. VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP work just fine because they are sorted ascending. The XLOOKUP also works sorted descending. When I first introduced the VLOOKUP, I said it's human nature to want to put the good news at the top. My grading scheme in this hypothetical course is if you get 90 or above, you get an A. Only then will I mention if you don't get a 90, if you get an 80 or above, you get a B, etc. The XLOOKUP can deal with that just fine. The VLOOKUP cannot. It'll give you the wrong answers. So the compare values can be sorted ascending or descending. Either way. Of course, the compare values have to be sorted. Of course they do. If they're not sorted at all, like 0 up to 70, up to 80, up to 83, down to 75, up to 85, up to 100, down to 90, up to 85, then the question of which interval does a number lie in makes no sense. 77 lies in both of those intervals, 70 to 80, as well as 75 to 85. Let me go over the demo examples, or at least a few of them. In mod 4, meaning in a couple of, in 10 days, I guess, without a break, I teach advanced spreadsheets. For you first-year students, consider taking it in mod 4 of next year. I want to send an email to Kevin Ryan saying he got an A- in management science and spreadsheets, the earlier grading scheme, the earlier name of this course. And separately, I want an email to Gary Chow, advanced spreadsheets B, et cetera, Bob Smith, this course A-. Memorize the yellow ones. Kevin, A-. Gary, advanced spreadsheets B. Press this button and I get a customized message. And then look, automatic emails are created. That's what you can do with macros. It's an extraordinarily powerful technique. These are customized emails. Bob Smith, you can still see him at the bottom here. I completed grading 4. well, the email body says, quote, you don't see the quote, but when I compiled this email, quote, I completed grading for, quote, ampersand, whatever is in column B next to the student, management science and spreadsheets. Ampersand, quote, your course grade is, close quote, ampersand, whatever's in column C, I'm covering it. And then some filler. I hope you enjoy the class and learn some useful tools that will help you succeed in your career. I'm not going to send it. And then Hideaki Ibuki, his course, his grade. Kei Kashiwa, Hirazawa. Oh. Jermaine Bear, I shouldn't pick on him. You know who Jermaine Bear is, don't you? Hans Stoll, maybe I shouldn't pick on him either. Scott knew, he was my TA when I first graded this. Gary Chow, in the second yellow row. I completed grading for advanced spreadsheets. Your grade is B. You ever wonder how I return 60 or 80 or 100 emails for the individual? I push a button and it returns them to you. Automatically using a loop in VBA, Visual Basic for Applications. I'll show you one more and then I'll let you go. I'll show you two more. I want to solve a series of linear programming models. I used a generic example that I think you've seen before. The details are not important. How much do I invest in these 6 stocks to maximize the return with, I'm not sure what the risk should be. Here's an image of what I want to create. If I allow 20% risk, solve the linear program, and what's the answer? If I allow 19% risk, look what happens when I push this button. The rectangular range of solutions fills up. You can automate solution of linear programming models. That's my advanced spreadsheets course. In the data visualization course, I teach mostly Tableau. Of the 14 classes, I think 7 or 8 of them are Tableau. Then I teach a few advanced graphics from Excel. 3D maps. Have you ever seen a 3D map? This customers in this city, in this state, in this country, Albania, Algeria, Angola, Argentina, Argentina again, Australia a few times. Let's look at a 3D map. I'll open the existing map. I'll close some of the panes that I don't need. And I can see sales by city, by state, by country. And you might know Zoom is covering it. If I choose the city, can you read that? I suspect not. CITY. Now I get a bar for each city. If I choose country, the opposite extreme, I get 1 bar for the United States, 1 for Canada, 1 for Mexico. If I choose state, some advanced Excel graphics capability that Microsoft has come up with in response to Tableau's competitive urging. Well, we've covered a lot of material. We covered a lot of material. Nothing new that I covered today is testable, except for the use of the filter worksheet function in conjunction with other worksheet functions. You can expect a linear programming model. You can expect a simulation question, and the other 4 questions, I think there will be 6, I'm not finished. Linear programming, simulation, and then the others will be advanced Excel, one of which will be the filter worksheet function in conjunction. You can expect an advanced sum product, you can expect a conditional formatting and so forth. Thank you. Go out and preach the gospel of Excel and send me your success stories.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Thanks, Larry.
You're all welcome. Thank you for keeping me employed.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Alejandro, you are all welcome.